It's time for the Artie Show! And now your host, Artie Romero!
Hello everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the Artie Show. This past spring, I was very privileged to be in attendance at the Denver Independent Comics and Art Expo, where the special guests were Gilbert, Jaime, and Mario Hernandez, the Hernandez brothers. Everybody knows about their alternative comics breakthrough series, Love and Rockets. I got to meet them all and watch them working and talk with them extensively. This episode is mostly devoted to a panel discussion. This show is a full hour of the Hernandez brothers. So let me get off the stage, and here are Los Brothers Hernandez.
There we go. Test. That's how you test a microphone, people. We're, I think, a minute out or whatever. Should we start this plane off early? Is that okay with you guys? Because we have a nice crowd. Ow! First off, thank you so much. We are so excited to welcome Los Hermanos Hernandez brothers. I am Charlie LaGreca. I'm the director of DINK, and to my left is Mr. Phil. He is the artistic curator of DINK, and also we used to do a podcast, the very first podcast, all about independent comic books. And it is an incredible treat and joy having been so inspired by Love and Rockets and these three gentlemen to present our spotlight panel on the Hernandez brothers.
And this year is the 35th anniversary of Love and Rockets. And over those 35 years, we've been really lucky to be treated to a huge cast of characters, diverse characters, which at the time was quite rare in comics. Got to grow older with Maggie and Opie, who everyone fell in love with, and Gilbert's huge cast of characters from Palomar, and seeing his characters in that huge multi-generational story.
Just keep saying huge about my characters.
Usually.
They are.
And just tons of amazing stories. The Death of Speedy, Heartbreak Soup, Flies on the Ceiling, oh my God. Poison River, The Love Bunglers just a few years ago. And just the last thing I wanted to say as preface before we get into it is there's a pretty famous ad for Love and Rockets back in the 80s that on the top of it, it's a question mark, the best comic of the 80s. But I think in retrospect, that's quite an understatement. Yes. It's a lot more than just the best comic of the 80s. It's still pretty, it's incredibly important. And it's kind of the cornerstone of the independent comic boom that happened back then. They kind of began it, really. Yeah. So please give a huge welcome to Gilbert Hernandez, Jaime Hernandez, and Mario Hernandez.
So, I talking to you guys and having visited your hometown of Oxnard, California.
You did?
Yes, I did. I went there one time. Really? Yes.
Oh, it was a pilgrimage, okay.
It was more me stalking you, but when I was like 20 years old, being a cartoonist, burgeoning cartoonist. But tell us about Oxnard and how your hometown of Oxnard, and I'm sure you've gotten this before, but just as a starting place, what was the beacon of that town that was, if it was even a fertile ground for you, of your creation and how it affected your process in your very early years?
Well, it's a lot like what happens to rock bands if they come from a small town. There's nothing to do. So you create something to do. Even though it was great growing up as a kid, a lot of my, Palomar actually was based on my childhood as a springboard, to do Palomar, who was just looking at my neighborhood and the types of characters, and then relatives, and then friends, and then that's where it was sort of, I just formulated that way. I started to use it. I mean, of course, it's a completely different, visual, but It was kind of based on that. I just, because I didn't know how to imitate. I didn't want to draw Batman or Spider-Man or whatever, but I didn't want to also approximate them. I just wanted to have, the only way I can be good is to be myself and tell stories that aren't in comic books. That doesn't mean it was a plan to be successful. It was just all I could do. That's what I thought was the best I could do. And luckily it worked out, for me, and the readers enjoyed the stories. But anyway, that was the start. Oxnard was a small agricultural town known for its strawberries. So if you ever go to Oxnard and order pancakes, get the strawberries, because they're locally grown and they're wonderful. But I'll let these guys say more. Oxnard is just a small town, and it's great when you're little, and then you get older and there's nothing to do, so you get into trouble. Start punk rock bands.
Oxnard was this kind of, it was kind of a tiny LA because it says on, is it not?
Hello? Hello? And because it was a small, like I said, agricultural town. That's where all the Mexicans came from, And then we had the beach. We also had the beach. And on the beach, celebrities had summer houses. So it was like this weird, poor, rich, famous kind of thing, And so it was just this microcosm of just Southern California, And by the time it was time to do the comic, it was a Southern California we knew that most of the country didn't know, because everyone thought of Baywatch, and the beach and Malibu and stuff like that. Well, we did have the beach, but we had other things too, and we were, after a while, there's just I was more interested in my real life than what I was reading in my comics, because I was still collecting comics and stuff like that. And I go, hanging out with my friends, going to punk shows, hanging out, cruising cruising Savior's Road on a Sunday night. That's way better than the X-Men, And that's when I started drawing that stuff and starting to, like, Maggie, my rocket mechanic character, started out looking different. And when I cut my hair, she cut her hair. When I started dressing different, she started dressing different. Yeah, it was kind of a gradual thing. And by the time 81, when we did the first Love and Rockets, that's how she looked. I don't know if we would have started the comic 5 years earlier, how she would look. It would be a whole different thing. But it was just really good timing, and we're kind of lucky that was the moment, the time to do the comics, because it just all worked. Her style, how she lived, and her friends around her. Like I said, if it was done at a different time, it might have been different.
Did you want to get on that also, Mario?
Just that, we did grow up amongst the surfers and the cholos and different, and there was also a naval base there, and so there was a lot of people, transient kind of people from the South and from all over the country, and you made friends with, and you just learned all sorts of evil things from, and it was just a mix. I was just like to give it another layer, and it was a great little town. But like all small towns, a lot of them they get gentrify them, and then they just go to heck, and everybody moves to the beach, and then nobody lives in town. But
Well, timing has always been good for us, because we grew up in the 1960s. I remember Mario bringing the first Fantastic Four comic to the house.
bought it off the stands.
So that, and then from then on, a Marvel started to become something little by little, and that was the same time, and then by 64, the British invasion. So all this timing was going to influence us as children. So when it came to our teens, we lost interest in Spider-Man and that sort of thing. I mean, we still bought them and read them, but we weren't that into them. But we were more into the music we listened to. Well, before that, it was glam rock and hard rock in the 70s, and we're more interested in that and partying pot and smoking pot with girls and all that stuff. That was just more interesting than comic books, even though we still liked comic books. Timing was great. So by the time we became adults, especially when I was 20-ish, and it was time to get a life, you know, and then punk rock happened. You know, so I'm just saying timing was good for us as far as giving us a drive for our comic, for what we wanted to do in our comic. So Jaime made the right choice. Like he said, he was doing the rocket mechanics, and literally, you know, once we did the first issue of Love and Rockets, if you'll notice, Maggie's hairdo is an average, really nice soccer mom type hairdo, and she gets a cut right away to her. The timing was just right when Love and Rockets started. You know, for a new way of looking at pop culture, which the mainstream is completely ignoring because they had no idea how to do it. Any punk rocker in a comic book was a knife-wielding idiot, and all the punks we knew were nice. We're nice people, you know, nice people interested in alternative culture, you know. So anyway, the timing was always good for us. That's part of it.
Gilbert, you had said that you had no interest in doing like superheroes or approximating them. If Love and Rockets didn't take off the way it did you have any interest in going into comics in some kind of more mainstream way, or would you just said screw it and go join a band and do that?
You know what? I probably would have emphasized the band thing.
Yeah.
I probably would have, and he probably used my skills to do flyers and you know maybe singles, drawings, and that kind of thing. Probably I'd have probably a hole in me though, you know, that wants to do that but just didn't find it. But I would have been happy being in a band. Maybe not as happy, but I would have because we stopped making music because Love and Rockets really it did more for us and pop culture than us being in a band. You know, we already had great bands, but we didn't have really comics about that were different, you know, but we had bands there was great bands all the time.
You even had a band to take your name.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know?
That's Alan Moore's fault.
How early on did you guys know that what you were doing was special and unique and important, really?
Well, okay, this is my take on some of the things that Gilbert was saying. I remember we were closest in age. We shared a room, and he would party with me. I'd drag him along to go underage drink and stuff. And I remember we were sitting there, and we're just out of high school. Maybe he's still in high school, I'm out. And he's going, you know, comics, man, they should be about like a village in Mexico or something. Yeah, he was telling all this stuff. And then he did some comics part way, and he had lyrics of rock songs. And it was a story about a party, people going to a party, and nobody had ever done that before. And so I was like, why are you doing this? I mean, you know, he's not doing his usual superhero thing that he was doing for himself and stuff. He was putting in elements of science fiction and stuff, but there was the whole core of like getting true stuff. Like I said, nobody wrote about parties, you know, or people hanging out or anything like that. So that all came about, you know, like just thinking, you know, I just knew he had the chops of like, this is what comics should be. And even when the comic came out, I go, so are you going to do stuff to kind of draw into people? He goes, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. And they'll read what I want to read.
That's punk rock.
But it was just arrogance and stubbornness, really. I mean, I just did not want to hunker down and draw New York City and Spider-Man flipping around. Even though I'd loved Spider-Man as a kid, it's just I would look at it and go, I don't want to draw that. And so it was part laziness and mostly arrogance, and luck.
I remember, we'll get to a question, but that just reminds me of the first time I saw the cover of Love and Rockets when I was a kid. I was working at the Mile High Warehouse, and on the cover was La Llorona, which my mother's Mexican, and she told us about La Llorona. I was like, why is this on a comic cover? Like, is this from Mexico? And I couldn't figure it out. You guys messed with my head, because I was just like, what is this? And it has all these different images in different blocks. It wasn't just one image like a regular comic, you know, at that time, you know, so.
Well, since we're still talking about the early days, one thing I wanted to ask was, Mario, why you kind of took a step back rather early in
you know, like he was saying about arrogance, I had the biggest ego, and I just thought, I'll be with these guys. They were way better than me. They were, you know, as far as, I don't know, I had stepped away from drawing and doing stuff. I was more out into partying and hanging out with girls and things like that, the ones that would talk to me. And we just it developed from there. I don't know, when your stuff, and I forgot the thread of the story here.
I just wonder why you kind of.
Oh, I stepped back. See, I'm chickening out. No, I was, a lot of what started Love and Rockets was because we were looking, these guys we had no career path. You know, college, that was what other people talked about. You know, things like that. So I saw how talented they got, you know, and I thought, let's get in through the side door, you know, and do this and start out this, and at least they can show their talent, you know, even if they're not going to get published, or they can at least get their feet wet, you know. And so they did that, you know, and then I got in there and I thought, oh, I could do that too. And then if you look at some of my stuff from the early days, you'll go, oh boy, he really was full of himself.
Yeah, but you were doing some cool stuff. You were also challenging the form. I feel like as a kid seeing it, it was challenging me and challenging the form. That was
well,
cool.
I thought, okay, there's this comic, I'm going to do the complete opposite of that. And it's going to have politics in it, it's going to have
social issues.
Yeah, social issues and stuff.
And it kind of looks like a cross between like the ECs and the undergrounds in a way.
Yeah, it was one of these things where you just meld everything together. And I didn't see anybody meld this, you know, this way before. Anyway, I went along, and then these guys just started getting better and better. You know, you think they're gonna, like, oh, they're good, their talent, they stay the same, and it's good. You like seeing it and all this stuff, but they were getting better and better. And I just thought, I'll never be able to catch up with these guys. I'm too lazy. And
well, part of it also, so Mario's 4 years older than me. Me and Jaime were punk rock bumps.
yes,
We had plenty of time and arrogance to do comics. Mario had a family. He was working. He had a family to raise. That's a priority. That's a real priority. That doesn't give you a lot of time to focus for days on doing a comic. You know, like just loafing. And, you know, you have to loaf. Okay, loafing is good for you to, when you're really planning on what
This is a public service announcement.
From high school till I was 22 years old, I was the biggest slacker, loafer, leech in the world. But the positive side was I thought about what I wanted to do constantly and drew all the time and thought about it. So that's why the Palomar, you know, when I jumped into it, people told me, like, you just came out of the blue for that. No, I thought about it for years. I wasn't focused, but it was something I wanted to do. So basically I had a backlog of that in the back of my head, a gigantic head, and it was just, you know, like, it's time to do it, so it just filtered out. So I was able to connect new things to those old thoughts, you know. So there is a time, being bored and loafy now and again is good for art. It really is. It's bad for finances, it's bad for your spouse or your mom yelling at you, but it can give you time to just let it out, you know. Sometimes it doesn't come out that fast. Sometimes you have a blank piece of paper in front of you and it just does not come out. Loafing, doing nothing, getting high is sometimes okay. It's not too long, you know. Don't do like me in 6 years, but you know, I ended up in Palomar. You know, so.
You mentioned like about how they were getting better and better all the time. I was wondering if you guys like pushed each other by seeing each other's work. Like, you know, one of you'd see, you know, Duck Feet go, oh yeah, look, here's the death of Speedy. What do you think of that? It's like, oh yeah, what do you think of, you know, human astrophysics? Oh yeah, what do you think of, you know?
Without
constantly raising the bars.
Without the I will get you without all that. Yeah, sure. When we were doing Love and Rockets, Gilbert started to get really serious with his stories, you know, and he was doing like Laughing Sun and Duck Feet and stuff like that. And I remember going, oh, well, Megan Hopi just went to a gig. and I was just like, oh, shit. You know, but without saying anything, I was just like, I better pick it up so I'm at least allowed to be in this comic, you know. But accidentally it worked for me because all the Maggie and Hopi just hanging out stuff is some of my fans' favorites. Sure. And it built their character. Yeah. You know, of them doing nothing built their character. Right. You know. Sure. It's important. Yeah. And so, but around Death of Speedy and the return of Ray D right before that was like basically the first time where I just go, hey, I know how to write a story, a complete story, start to end. You know, it was a total learning process for me. That's why I had dinosaurs and they were playing baseball and going, over the dinosaurs, a home run. Because I was just throwing stuff in there and it wasn't going anywhere. but it was still just like, this is just fun to read.
So I just want to ask one more thing on that. So if you were inspiring each other, so was it ever competitive?
Not in the sense of, you know, I'm going to be better than him, he's going to be better than me, whatever. It was more like the art was elevating and you had to keep up. If you're going to be in Love and Rockets, you better keep up. That's all it was. It was nothing like, I better keep up with Jaime. No, I have to keep up with Love and Rockets because it became its own entity. You know, the fans and the critics and the publisher, it belonged to them now. You know, and we just did our best to put ourselves into it and to keep it elevated to a certain point. So it wasn't anything personal. You know, it was just, I'm just going to do this expedient, do the Astros, and I go, what am I going to do? I'm going to back off of this issue. Because luckily, if Jaime's doing a serious story and he's really going forward, I'm going to take an issue to go, I'm going to do anything for this issue. And some people like those stories. You know, so it wasn't a problem of it. Because I knew if I did a story that wasn't about anything, I could start the next issue with a new thing, you know. So it was never anything personal or competitive that way other than keeping Love and Rockets by.
Yeah, there was a common thing we've said since the beginning, talking on the phone about, you know, how's the new issue, what are you doing or something. And one of us will always say, you're carrying the issue. And we go, why? And go, this one's just not the one. You know, the next one maybe, you know, and your story's really strong right now, so good. I get to be in the background, you know, kind of.
That's a really cool point, but that you have this brother kinship where you could do that, you know. And that being the case, did you edit each other's stuff ever? Did you let each other read it and be like, hey, took a look at this, and I need an editor's eye? Because you guys didn't have an editor. I mean, kind of. I think you served as an editor somewhat in the beginning, right?
Well, kind of, you know.
No, it was just more like, oh, you misspelled this. Oh, hey, you have a blank panel, can I draw on there? You know, there's that kind of stuff, really. It was more unspoken, you just looked at it. You know, there wasn't spoken things like, you should go this way, unless he asked. And that doesn't mean he would use my advice, he might even go against it, but that's still getting past that block, you know, over that hump. Whether you take the advice or not. Sometimes I'll say, oh, okay, he'll ask me, why don't you do this? Well, why don't you do that? Do this, and then maybe he'll go home and go, I don't want to do that. But we got through that wall just by discussing it. So that was working. So there's no specifics, do this instead, do that instead. We might have happened once in a while, but it's been so many years I've forgotten.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
If I'm remembering correctly, around like the end of the first series, the first 50, you kind of took a step back for a little while because you got bogged down by the continuity, things like that. But I know you've also you've done a lot of work like outside of Love and Rockets to like you were just saying how if he's doing something serious, you go do something ridiculous for a little while. Did those things that kind of help you recharge, and so you can kind of come back into that world by going and doing things like Grip or some of the other more fantastical stuff?
I'm just more. My brain is is a waterfall. You know, it's just pouring constantly. I have a really, really busy brain. I have really super active brain. I only get 5 hours of sleep because I just can't. Tons of things are just pouring out of my head. So I just need a release for that sometimes. And the comics take a long time. So if you are doing something serious, they take a long time to do. So I go, I'm going to do this over here. Besides, and the reality of I'm going to try to make some money with this other comic. And so I'll have them Rockets and then this thing. But interestingly enough, I'm unable to. Don't tell any DC or Dark Horse editors this ever. I don't know what the heck I'm doing over there. I'm making the same comics, with different clothes. It's just I don't know how to make a hit comic. I really lucked out to doing the last comic Darwin Cook did. Twilight Children. It was only because we got together and I go, he's going to sell this. Good. This is great. And so I was relaxed writing it. I think I have to criticize myself. I have to jump on myself. I don't think I was up to the level of Darwin and Dave Stewart, the colorists' work. I think I held back too much. But Darwin was happy because he was a cartoonist. He wrote his own stuff. He didn't need me, but he wanted to work with me. So I just wrote him a real simple science fiction story, and I pulled back quite a bit. And he liked that, because he goes, I just fill this stuff in, because he was an animator. He knows how to tell a story. We didn't need each other, so we're going to enjoy being with each other. We're not going to butt heads. We're going to let ourselves work together. So he was very happy about that. And but when I read it, I go, there's a couple of word balloons missing. There's a couple of, it's information, exposition that's missing in it. But otherwise, there was fun.
It's really sad that we lost him, and that was a heartbreak. And do you think you would have worked together again?
Yeah, he was before he knew as he was that sick, he wanted to do something right away.
Really?
Yeah, he wanted to just get into something right away because he was feeling pretty bad. But then when he got the diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, he just threw up his hands and said, okay. And then he wouldn't answer emails. Nobody knows.
Yeah, no one knew.
I was talking to Dennis Kitchen, and he goes, yeah, he wouldn't answer emails. We didn't get it. He goes, this dude's weird.
Yeah,
and then,
there's something going on.
And then his best friend, Jimmy Pomeranian, told me, he just says, he goes, hey, it's stage 4, man. I'm like, what? I just talked to him 2 weeks ago. It's just fast.
Well, I'm glad we got that series from you. And
Yeah,
it was really cool.
I am very proud of it.
And did it cause any brother fights? Because you're sleeping with someone else.
Oh no! The more we're apart, the happier we are. We don't care. But we're happy to be in Lone Rockers together, and that's a good thing. But and I always find out a year later that Jaime did a cover or a short story for some record album.
Or Los Lobos album cover.
Yeah, album cover. I didn't even know about this stuff, so I'm happy a year later.
You were talking about collaborating with Darwin Cook. You've also done a lot of work with Mario. What's your collaboration process in working together on stuff?
Just to get it out as fast and easy as possible.
Yeah, we did the Citizen Rex thing. That was like our last big project, and I had a lot of fun on it. And the whole process, I wrote about it in there in the editorial page or whatever, the starter page. Jaime, I love him dearly, but we cannot work together. I ate some of this stuff years ago when he was first starting out.
He's just learning this, I think, apparently, just now.
I noticed he re-inked some of my stuff, so I was like, okay, that's fine. But with me and Gilbert, because we're close, we grew up closer, we had a little more simpatico kind of thought process and stuff. And every once in a while, he'll say like, hey, I need to do something, but I don't want to write it. So, and I wish you'd do it more often, but...
And oddly enough, this is the opposite of the Twilight Children. Since I was just drawing it, I missed a lot of artistic cues. I misread a lot of things he wanted me to do, and because both me and Mario, we don't have a complete idea. We have most of the idea, and then we just run with it, and then come to the problems as we get to them. That's how we like to work. Whereas having to work with somebody, you have to know more about the story. And even though none of his information was missing, I missed it because I'm just my own artist. I missed cues in there. I designed certain characters that were just wrong for the story. I designed this wrong. I would go in directions that was just like, and Mario would look at it and goes, "Oh, this character is coming back," and stuff. See, I never asked like, "Is this character coming back?" I didn't go for the hard information because okay, there's like generic. I made these the most generic gangsters in here, but I didn't realize they were going to be part of the story, and recognizing their faces was going to be important. So I just drew blanks, So naturally, the characters don't resonate the way Mario was thinking, because he kept telling me, do Chester Gould type villains, meaning very there, very misshapen and there. And I just said, I'll just make them blanks with hats. And then whoops. I got more stripped and stuff. I'm like, this is not working. I fucked this up. So it does happen. It slips by sometimes if you're not in tune. If you're not asking all the questions.
Yeah.
But I'm just happy as heck that he's drawing it.
Gilbert, you mentioned that even when you're not drawing, you're always writing. How far in advance do you know like where your story is going? I guess the same thing for Jaime too. Like how much of it is planned out in your head, and how much do you allow yourself to improvise and go with the flow and see where it takes you, or do you have like a definitive path in mind ultimately for where things are going?
For me, I'm not an idea person. I don't have a concept in my head that I'm going to do a story about society where this happens or whatever. Like Gilbert can do that. He can create a whole graphic novel based on something totally separate. Most of the time I need my characters to write it for me. And I know my characters so well, they could write me a story like that. So it's rare when I do have an actual a story to put the characters in. You know, it's usually the characters are saying, "Come on, story," fill it in for me. You know, it's usually that for me. Every 5 years I'll think of something that the characters have to fit into. You know.
I don't have that planned out. A lot of times I have the outcome planned out, just the outcome. I have no idea what style it's going to get there. And that can be tricky sometimes because it can take too long. Sure. You can just start to fill in so many ideas that you have to deal with. It happens all the time. So I don't have, but like you said, the character. If you have characters that have a defined personality to you, they'll write themselves. The only thing is you have to rein them in, because they'll just write the same story over and over. That's just how it works. So you have to change the story using that personality. But the characters will resist. Literally, I mean, it's weird. They will resist you. And you gotta go, no, honey, you gotta go this way. I'm not wearing those shoes. Yes, you are. You know, it's almost silly, but it's sort of like that.
You know, I have a question. I don't know why this just came up, but so it's 35 years, and hearing everything you guys are talking about, how is your process now when you reflect on your teenager, early 20s, your punk rock, doing all that stuff? How have you, as artists, has your process changed compared now to then, or is it the same?
I would say, for me, it's still the same. I have just learned tricks to make it go faster. You know, artistic tricks, like I'll get this done faster if I just ink it and not put any blacks in yet, fill the blacks in later. You know, just things like that, just little tricks like that. But it's still the same process. I still same, you know, that you have your paper, you have your page, you have your partially written script, and then you just put, okay, I'll start with a house. Okay, there's Maggie walking down the street. She falls. You know, it's still that simple for me.
Well, here's interesting. Here's like he was talking about. Sometimes you'll have to avoid the black spot. You know, just because I noticed because in this last issue of One Rocket, I was doing a lot of trees and bushes, and normally just to balance with the blacks, you'll just fill in a black bush just to give it a balance. And then sometimes you'll actually do the detail, not details, but you know, like a scribble for the bush leaves. Right. And I realized the scribble for the bush leaves takes half the time it is to blacken it in. So literally, if you're in time crunch, you have to decide: am I going to fill in the black, or am I going to just do the bush leaves? Really, and then you balance the page that way. It's literally you're saving times by half a minute, 5 minutes. So, you know, just to get that page done because you're sick of it, and you know, or you know you're going to be doing it for another day, and you don't want to. You need that day for other stuff. So that's one thing. But
I noticed the shade, the tree shading in the new issue, where sometimes it was a little different, as if it was just an indication of it rather than the full.
Well, you're probably talking about the panel where I forgot to finish it.
Literally that one.
Literally, because you have to wait, because I move so fast in the page, I'm always smearing ink.
Yeah.
It doesn't dry fast enough. Even in Vegas, where it's dry, yeah. I'll just smear ink all the time. You'll see my pages are just whited out, only because my hand wiped across ink that wasn't dry. And I go, that should have been dry. I did it 5 seconds ago, you know. But there's one panel where I just forgot to finish it. It looks awful. And readers might just think, oh, that's an interesting thing to do.
You can fix that for the collection.
This is bad. Another thing is, okay, my work habits. I used to be the work till 2 in the morning guy.
Yeah.
And then I realized that once my daughter was born, that I never saw them because, you know, I just never saw them. I remember working at night and I'd hear my wife putting on music discs of punk bands and stuff, and she'd just watch stuff by herself all night while I'm working. And I'm going, one night, literally, I went, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. And once my daughter started going to school, I just changed my schedule. I thought, I'm going to make myself work in the day and spend, the early afternoon.
Priorities shift.
Yeah, I just, and once things go, and now my daughter goes to a special school in Las Vegas, an art school, and we have to get up at 5 in the morning because her bus leaves at 6. Because it's so far across town, they have to pick up all these kids, to go to the special school, that it takes an hour and a half for the bus to get there. So You have to get up pretty early, get them up, get going. And so when by the time I come back from the bus stop, taking them there, I'm awake.
Yeah.
It's 6:30. It's 5:45 or whatever it is. 6:30, 6. It depends on days because sometimes it shifts. And I'm awake, and what I used to do, because I was bleary-eyed, I put on the TV and fall back asleep. But then I just started going, oh, let me just start rolling paddleboard and stuff. And I got used to working
That early.
that early,
Yeah.
but that could drive you insane, and that could mess you up, you know. So I just basically, no matter what, I will stop drawing, no matter what I'm doing, at 5 o'clock.
That's cool.
That's it, like a Woody Allen movie. He stops at 5 o'clock so he can go to see the next.
Yeah.
And I go, that's brilliant, you know,
Yeah.
and nobody's tired, nobody's overworked, just at 5 o'clock you're done. And so that's, if I can help it, that's usually what I do now. So I work just during the day, and that's it. At nighttime, nothing, zero, just the family.
You know, you brought up family, which was cool to hear, and it just hit me in the head of, you know, we have these great dynasties now of comic book legends having children. Joe Gilbert, his sons. We have the Ramirez, and now we might have the Hernandez. Is that true? Do you think we're gonna start?
Well, your daughter Sally's been making mini comics.
She's been making mini comics,
Yeah.
and I've helped her out because she's kind of lazy. Well, she just doesn't have the background that we had. We had comic books up our butts, you know, and we wanted them there, you know, and we drew. And it was just a different thing in those days because we were just riveted by doing this, and we were doing it. Where she had more distractions, her phone, YouTube, internet, social media, that stuff. She likes doing it, but I noticed her strengths went to more like she's more successful at doing films. And she has a film class in school. So I think she's going to end up being a filmmaker. You know? But I told her, she goes, Dad, I don't want to go to college. I go, you don't have to. I go, as long as you do what you're doing. You know what I mean? As long as what you're doing.
That's her right now.
Stop talking about me, Dad.
It's a flip phone, yes. Go straight to the Enterprise.
It's a burner phone. I think you just said you had a burner phone.
I wanted to ask about some of the. Okay. So I wanted to ask about some of the current stuff that you're doing in the new series. You went back to the magazine format recently, quarterly. I wanted to ask why you switched from you're doing the annual 100-page books. Why do you want to switch back to the format where Love and Rockets originally started?
Because we went annually and for 8 years. And so we had 8 issues, and by the 5th or 6th year, it started to drive me crazy.
Yeah?
Living with a piece of art for a year for me, just kind of with no closure, no nothing. I started to rewrite scenes that didn't need rewriting because I thought they were old. And then I would rewrite, and I'd write in a circle. I started writing a circle. I started going crazy. I'm really insane. And then I remember by the 7th issue or 8th issue, the 7th issue, Gilbert, I was hanging out with Gilbert at a convention, and under his breath he goes, "Boy, that issue killed me." And I'm like, "You too?" He goes, "Yeah." And we just started talking about it, and we were realizing, yeah, this is going to kill us. You know, so we thought, let's go back to a regular comic. Wouldn't that be cool just to finish one and then it'd be out? Oh, wonderful. And
Well, it shows through the years. It shows. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it shows the years of you guys being used to that quarterly, you know, the in and out all the time. Whereas a lot of artists nowadays, they're doing these big 300-page graphic novels and such, and they're taking 5, 6, 7 years to do it. Right? It's a different process.
It depends on the individual. Patience is for people, you know, they want to do that. I just like we grew up, you know, mostly with comic books that came out all the time. You know, Mario was collecting Marvel comics. You know, you couldn't keep up with those things.
Yeah.
And Jack Kirby did every cover, and you know, and there were cool covers and this and that. And so we liked having the comic book at least as fast as we could. We could never do it that fast, but you know, we like having new covers. We have just the new issue, and we knew that our readers would like to see a new issue the way we like to see a new Spider-Man comic. You know, it was sort of the same thing, and I liked seeing it this way. Like, oh, good, I get to see a new Love and Rockets every 3 or 4 months instead of once a year. The annual was good for a little while though, because I could do really long stories without cutting them up, because I really edit my stories quite a bit when I do the shorter.
Yeah, I think that helped. Can you hear? Yeah, you know, like you said, on the other hand, doing it annually, I did some of my best work, I think. Yeah, so that's over.
It drove you crazy.
And you know, to talk about the crazy, I just want to let you know that when Love and Rockets was coming out, from the very beginning, there was no lead time. It was just, they'd start the comic, and they'd finish it, they'd put it out, and then the next one would start. And it was literally, like when it hit the stands, it was only about a month old, if that. You know, it was, yeah, sometimes 2 weeks. What you were reading was like, bam, they just finished. You know, so it was always up to date, kind of like that. They never got a lead time.
And Jaime, you mentioned you know, if you sit with art too long, you were tinkering with it. I know Gilbert used to redraw quite a lot of things when they would go into the collected edition, didn't you?
Yeah, I still do.
Do you still do that?
Yeah, because Love and Rockets is, I want Love and Rockets to return to a broader book than it was for a while. It was a little my work anyway in Love and Rockets was getting a little too specific with the weirdness. Yeah. And but I want somebody to just pick it up and just see Love and Rockets. Go, oh, this is what I heard about it. Whatever. I saw this in a naive idea that we're going to make it someday, you know. And and so I do edit it down. I tone down the sex quite a bit now because that's more than violence than anything else is the sex that bothers people. And
now you have blubber as an outlet.
Yeah, that's an outlet. See, besides, yeah, it's not like I miss it in Lone Rock. It's because I have all this other stuff, and anything I want to do can go into blubber. I don't care if it sells or not. I just, you know, I know it's got a small fan base, but anything I want can go into that, and I don't need to do that with Lone Rockets. I get that out of my system so I can just have people talking in Lone Rockets, which just make them happy. You know, makes sense. So, you know.
I think we want to make sure we give you guys. You've been so amazing listening to all us. Obviously, Mr. Phil and I could go on for ages because we're excited, but we want to hear some of your questions. So does anyone want to come up here or just raise your hand? I don't know if this mic will stretch, or can we borrow one of the wireless maybe? You can yell. Does anyone want to ask a question of Los Hernandez brothers? Here we go.
Yeah, I have one question for Jaime and one for Gilbert, if that's okay.
Okay, one at a time.
Okay, of course. One question I had about in Love and Rockets, it was about Maggie and Hopi's friend Daffy. Because I'm just curious because she doesn't get nearly as fleshed out as some of the other characters, and I'll fall to because there's a lot of people to keep track of in Love and Rockets. But were there or are there any plans to ever expand on her?
Daffy? I think Daffy has her shining moment in the last 3 issues.
Okay.
Then they were going to a punk reunion, you know, and they're all feeling old and everything and out of it. And I got to write Daffy in, and she's one of the main characters in the whole story. And it's what I've always wanted to do with her, but she just was not. It's weird. It's like Daffy wasn't strong enough to overtake Maggie and Hopi.
Right.
So she stayed in the back in the comic as well. You know, Maggie and Hopi just like, I put them in the comic and all the short stories leave. You know, it's just them. I mean, you know, I do a Maggie story by herself. She just swallows up the air. You know, and Daffy, it's funny, Daffy as a character just couldn't compete with that. And it couldn't compete with me doing it either. You know, but I'm just really happy that I found a way to write her in and give her her spot. Because I've been wanting to do it for a long time.
Very nice. And then for Gilbert, I was going to ask, how did your collaboration with Peter Bagg, that kind of space traveling rock group, come about?
Well, so almost all my projects with DC are from an editor that used to be there named Shelley Vaughn. She just liked our comics and wanted to put us together. She always had this idea that if we put these 2 indie superstars together, we'll have a 1 million selling comic. Of course, the opposite happened, but Peter Bagg just wanted to do this thing about an all-girl rock band. He loved Pete's funny because he likes stuff like Josie and the Pussycats and things like that, but he wanted to put his spin on it. But at DC, the policy is that if you write it, somebody else has to draw it. And this is at DC. I don't know why that is. I imagine there's just so much talent out there, they have to give everybody a spot, I'm guessing. So they asked me to do it, thinking that I would, it would be easy for me to do. And I thought, heck, I could draw a Scooby-Doo comic easy. That was the hardest fucking thing I ever did. Only because I'd gone from Love and Rockets to doing a monthly comic. And you're working constantly. You're working constantly on the art, even if it's, because it's, 22-page comic. And Peter Bag, even though it was written for 11-year-old girls, it's the 11-year-old girl in Peter Bag. Meaning there's 20 panels on a page and the word balloons have 50 words in them. So there's no room for art, and you're just constantly squeezing in all this information with the art, competing with the dialogue. So I had fights with him about, little girls don't want to read all this dialogue. And Pete goes, I do, so it only lasted 9 issues because it just wasn't happening, I think it was fun, and it was the most important thing was a great learning experience. It was a great learning experience. There was one issue where I just caved in, and I said, Jaime, do you want to ink it? And Jaime did, because I just caved in. I go, I can't ink this book. Or to get to the next one, because I'm already on the next book, but I'm not finished inking this one. And I just said, Jaime, do you have time to ink a book? And he said,
Yeah, and that was fun, man. I was inking like 6 pages a day.
Did your brother pay you? Did he pay you?
What's it?
I said, did he pay you? Your brother?
Yeah, they paid. DC pays, and they pay well. So
we have another question over here.
A lot of people don't know I did.
I was wondering what you guys like to listen to while you work, and if you listen to different stuff when you're writing as opposed to when you're drawing or inking.
When I was younger, I used to listen to a lot of music when I was drawing. I couldn't listen to while I was writing, but I used to do it separate. I'd write and then I would draw, so I would be able to put on music. Not too much new stuff, because I'm old and I go backwards. Listen to stuff I listened to in high school, or punk, or glam, or 60s soul, or just stuff like that. But now I write only a little bit, and then I go directly to the page, and I'm drawing, I'm laying out, and writing at the same time, and editing it down, so I don't have time for music. So the time when it's time to ink something, I'm really happy, and I put the headphones on, and I'm like inking, and I'm listening to music, but it's just rare, a lot more rare than it used to be.
I don't listen to music at all when I work. I watch TV, or the TV with a low zone. I usually have either South Park or if there's a marathon, Usually I watch like crime, those ID channels with evil crime shows, and I usually have those in the background. I get a lot of great ideas how to get away with murder. No, seriously, I used to have usually horror, Turner Classic Movies and Movie Honors, but it's on the low level, and I like the flickering images. I don't like to listen to music only in the car, because that's when I'm an 11-year-old girl. I crank up the music and sing like an idiot when I'm on the car, because in Vegas you're always on empty roads, you're driving around, so you can yell and scream and sing whatever you want to, and then I'll just watch, listen to stuff on YouTube for music, but I'm not that connected to music as I used to be. Once in a while I'll get excited about something, but not like the old days.
Do we have time for one more? Or do we have to cut it? One more. We'll just get one more in.
Hi. First, thank you for your work and coming here to talk to us. My question is about the relationship with your writing, with like screenplay writing, and film and television. How you feel you differ, or how you take inspiration from that.
Well, I've never written for. Well, yeah, we tried. We tried to write scripts, and they kept saying, "Well, this isn't how it works." And I go, "That's why this movie's gonna suck." They were going, screenwriting's an art, and I go, "Well, it's an art for you because I don't understand it. I just say this person is walking down the street And then another person says, hey, where are you going? And then the next person says, oh, to the store. Isn't that how you tell a story? And they go, well, that's not good screenwriting, man. That's just, because you're leaving out. And I'm going, well, then get me out of here. I want to do my comics then.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I've tried to do that. I can't write because you have to write it complete. You have to, write it from beginning, middle, and end. Fix it up, and then you have your thing complete. And none of my work's ever complete. It's always continued. It's always got to have something for me to build on. And I don't like the process either. I feel really stupid describing a person in their house, and then they go outside and go get in their car. It's just a nightmare of stupidity to me. I think that script writing is just stupidity to me, really. I have to draw and write at the same time, whether how good or bad, that's how I do it. I mean, I'll do it if I get an offer I can't refuse, but I've never had that, so, But
get an offer.
We wrote so many Love and Rocket scripts, and every one of them could have made a movie, but they didn't like it. They just did not like it.
You're giving them storybooks.
Yeah, they didn't like any scripts we came up with, and I look back, and any of them could have been a movie. Especially the shit that comes out now. It's movies,
Well, we could have easily done another hour, but we're like super out of time.
Well,
I want to ask like 2 rapid fire, just yes/no questions. Are we ever going to see you in Love and Rockets again, Mario?
I don't know about Love and Rockets, but you'll be seeing me again.
Okay.
Yes, I will be in Love and Rockets.
Are we ever going to see Penny again?
What?
Are we ever going to see Penny again?
That's interesting because the story I'm writing right now, I am trying to decide whether her going away in my superhero story, the Thai Girls story, was real or if it was alternative universe. So I haven't figured out, is it real? Is it, yeah, so I don't know if I'm allowed to yet.
Okay, stay tuned. The Hernandez brothers, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. Give it up for them. Thank you all so much for coming.
Really?
Thank you, guys.